We've got a few different things on the agenda for tonight. But before we do that, I just want to introduce myself. I am Daryl Beebe. I'm the counselor for students A through D. With me on tonight is Hillary Ty. She's the counselor for S through Z, and we gave our other counselors the night off. So our administration, Mr. Gile, Randall Giles, principal A through G, Andy Malash for students H through R, and Ron Kane for students S through Z. All right, so just a little bit of the agenda on tonight. Ms. Barry, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I had you mixed up. All right, so on tonight, we're gonna hear from the folks who run our senior all-night party, and they're gonna talk to you about that. I know you're probably saying, my kid is a freshman. Why are we getting ready to talk about senior activities? I'm gonna tell you right now, as a parent, it goes so fast. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the senior all-night party. I'm going to come back with a PowerPoint that talks a little bit about the basics in terms of graduation requirements, midterms, the academic requirements. So I'll talk a little bit about some of our tutoring opportunities that we have, as well as our clubs and activities. And then at that point, after that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Rappaport from the Tutoring Center. So with no further ado, I'm going to ask Jody Krasnick to come on up and talk to you, and then I'll be right back.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Beebe. So to reiterate what he just said, you're probably thinking, yeah, what am I hearing about the senior all-night party? 4 years goes really fast, but in addition to that, the senior all-night party requires about 150 plus volunteers. So the earlier that we can get you involved, the better. There's a lot of reasons why we need parents of all grades. I currently don't even have a senior, and I'm one of the co-chairs. My co-chair, Barry Frankel, doesn't have a senior, but I've had 2 graduates that have gone through Berkley High School. Barry's had 1. We each have a junior, and she's even got a 4th grader. And we've just seen how wonderful the party is. And a lot of schools are farming out their all-night parties. This is a 30-year plus tradition here at Berkley High, and we literally transform the gym and we create a party for the seniors the night of graduation, and it's a safe environment and it's really a wonderful event. So we want to make sure we maintain that, and so we need parents' involvement from the minute your student is at Berkley High School. Okay, so what is the senior all-night party? Basically, the night of graduation, the kids graduate at Meadowbrook, they come home, they change their clothes, they come to the gym. Between 11 and midnight, they check in, and then the doors are basically locked, and the kids are in the gym from 11 to about 4:30. And it's really amazing to see these kids. It's their last time together. It's in a safe environment. Parents don't have to worry about their children out, driving around and celebrating somewhere where maybe they're not sure, it's safe. Here they're together with their fellow students. And like I said, it takes about 150 plus volunteers. That's from planning the night of the party, setting up, donations, service, people volunteer their services, supplies, cleanup, from beginning to end. It takes it takes a village. So what is the party? My formatting didn't transfer well from my computer to this computer, so I apologize. We have gambling, we have boxer bingo, we have caricaturists, we've got dancing with a DJ, the pool is open, we've got lifeguards on duty, we've got psychics, tattoo artists. A couple years we've had the mechanical bull. Depending on the theme of the party, which we actually just had a meeting and decided on the theme, which is under wraps until we have a senior assembly and reveal it to the kids. We have different entertainment and food and decorations that's all revolved around the theme. And we also have prizes raffled off each night. Actually, our prize chairperson, Stacy Doctoroff, is with us, and she's been doing this. I grabbed her from when her daughter was a freshman, and she's been doing it ever since. So, And then between the two gyms, in the back gym, there's bouncies. You would think that these seniors don't enjoy that. Oh my gosh, they love it. They're out there doing all kind. We had like an archery set. We had a human Velcro thing one year. I mean, it's really fun. The kids have a great time. And in between the two gyms, there's the wishes wall. And you're going to see a lot of this throughout the year through the daily announcements and mailings that you're going to get. And we hope that you participate and help support the party, because the wishes wall, people buy wishes for graduating seniors, and the seniors can walk down the hallway and just see all the messages that people have bought for them to wish them well. Past year's themes, we every year vote on a different theme, but last year was the Wild Wild West. One year was Berkley Night at the Movies. We had Berkley World, like it's a small world at Disney World. One year we did all social media things. We had a tailgate. So every year it's really fun, and the seniors have no idea because they've never seen it before. So when they walk in, it's really amazing for them. So here are just some pictures we wanted to show you. There's Mr. Gowl with a wanted sign back there last year in the Wild Wild West. This is part of the wishes wall. Those are all wishes that parents and relatives and friends purchase for the seniors. Some more pictures, the mechanical bull. That's a psychic booth there. That was the class, the Night at the Movies logo. Every year we have a logo, and we have like a boxer bingo where we print the logo on the boxers, and the kids wear them year after year and really love them. There's that archery. That's the Velcro archery game that we had there. This was Hollywood and the red carpet. So what can you do as freshman parents? Obviously, we would love for you to participate. We have planning that has just started, so if you're interested in getting involved in a committee, decorations, food, prizes, really, if you're creative, if you have ideas, if you're handy, we would love to have you on the planning committee for that. If you don't have a lot of time and you really would still like to get involved, there'll be a sign-up genius that comes out after the first of the year. That way you can sign up to help set up the party, clean up, donate food, donate drinks, chaperone the party if you want, because we do need a lot of chaperones for the night of the party, so you can look for the sign-up genius for that. Keep an eye out throughout the year for fundraisers, because this party is an expensive party to put on, and it is really based on private donations, community donations, fundraisers, and that's the only way we can really do it. If you have, a business, you can offer your services or supplies to any of the decorations. Please let us know. We'd love that support as well. And we really want the kids, typically we get about 75–80% participation at the party. So just talk it up. If you hear seniors that aren't sure they want to come, tell them it's really a wonderful event. Visit our Facebook page. It's the Berkley High School Graduation All-Night Party. We post pictures. We post all kinds of upcoming things that you can keep an eye out for. And then lastly, if you have any questions, I'm Jody Krasnick. Barry Frankel is my co-chair. You'll see our name listed on the website, on all senior all-night party materials, and don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay? Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Krasnick. And I just want to piggyback on what she was saying. I know, once again, in regards to it being freshman year, and for a lot of our students, as well as parents, these years are going to go really fast. So parents, all that you can get involved in, as I said before, the 4 years goes really, really quickly. I always have seniors in my office saying, wow, it went so fast. But if you all could get involved in things as well, I think that's a big help. With that being said, I do want to go right to the list of clubs that you have. Hopefully you grabbed it. If not, you can grab a copy on the way out. Once again, one of the main questions when I talk to seniors, I'd say, hey, you've had 3.5 years here, close to 4 years here. What do you regret? Are there any regrets? And a lot of times students will say to me, I wish I would have got involved in the play. I wish I would have tried out for football. I wish I would have got involved in this club and that club. So probably about a month ago, we had clubs in the courtyard. And so the freshmen were able to see all of the clubs on display. They had different things out, and students walked around. And so the students tend to walk around, and then they look at a club, but sometimes they're a little bit hesitant to join. So I just want to take this opportunity to tell you, to follow up with your kids, encourage them to join clubs, to get involved. If there's a sport that they're considering or thinking about, to go ahead and try out, because once again, these 4 years are gonna fly by. All right, so I just want to talk a little bit about some of the nuts and bolts of freshman year and looking at the next 4 years. And I know one thing I love about Berkley, the Berkley School District, is that we're diverse. Not just diverse in culture or socioeconomics, but we're diverse in regards to the students. So for some of you all, some of this information will be kind of a replay if you've had students who've already graduated or have already gone through. For some of you, this is going to be brand new information, so bear with me, but I'm going to try to touch on each different element of the requirements. So there are 22 credits required to graduate from Berkley High School. And if students stay with the regular curriculum, and they just take 6 classes throughout the years, they're able to get 24 credits. Sometimes we have students who may take a class at OCC, or they may pick up something additional, but for the most part, as long as they do what they're supposed to do, they're going to have the 24 credits, and they've got a little room just in case they fail a class or they have a struggle. When we deal with the curriculum and the credits, the credit portion is one aspect of it. So you have to have a certain number of credits to graduate, but you also must pass and meet the Michigan Merit Curriculum requirements. So those are a little bit different. So they're stated there. Every kid must have 4 years of English. And when we talk about that English requirement, those are core English classes. So that means they would either have English 9A, 9B, or honors A and B. But your journalism, those kind of classes, creative writing, those do not count as your requirements. And just by the way, I see people taking pictures. We're going to have the PowerPoint on the website immediately, or probably in the next day or so, and the PowerPoint and everything will be there. So, but you can continue to take pictures if you like. All right, so also you need 4 years of math, okay, and then you must get up at least to Algebra 2 before senior year. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about that. 3 years of science, biology, chemistry, physics, and also anatomy, and a third science. So for a lot of your students, some who are taking geophysical science, that would count as that third science. 2 of those sciences have to be a lab. That's where your biology, chemistry, physics, anatomy, those sciences fall in. 3 years of social studies. U.S. history is a mandate, as well as government and economics and world history. And then the physical education, health, the credit for visual and performing and applied arts, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, and then 2 credits in a world language. So when we talk about personal curriculum, or curriculum, I should say Michigan Merit Curriculum, there's something that's called a personal curriculum. And so depending on the flow or what your son or daughter is choosing to do, a lot of times many of these credits can be waived depending on what they're going to take. So for example, if a student is going to excel in math, where let's say they pass Algebra 2 and they get to pre-calculus, calculus, Calc AB, Calc BC, then they've excelled beyond the curriculum. Once they've excelled beyond the curriculum, we are able to waive certain requirements. So if they're going to surpass what's needed, then we can waive PE. We can waive health. We may be able to waive a part of the visual or performing arts as well. Also, and this is kind of goes down the road, later on students participate in our vocational program called OTEC. And if a student participates in OTEC, which starts in their junior year, we're also able to waive 1 credit of the world language as well as the world history, okay? So as we talk about, and as I share these credits with you on tonight, realize that your son or daughter may be able to surpass or get by with without taking everything that's on the display on tonight. Okay, so that's where we talk about personal curriculum. And so if you're exploring that, that's something that your son or daughter is going to want to talk to the counselor about in regards to what can they waive, what can they take, what can they, get away with, without taking. Now, I will say to you, though, the Michigan Merit curriculum is very solid, very sound. And so as we talk about the language, most colleges want at least 2 years of a language, okay? So just keep that in mind. Not all, but a lot of colleges want at least 2 years of a language. So before you consider, I'm not going to take this, I'm not going to take that, make sure you have a conversation with your counselor, and then make sure that we're looking at where the student is headed. Where do they want to go? Are they college bound? Or are they following a career path? That will make a difference in terms of these credits and requirements. Are there any questions about this before I move on? Yes. Great question. So once again, there was a language taken at the middle school. Those credits do count. They do count. However, there's a caveat. Schools like U of M, Michigan State, some of those schools specifically want students to take a language at the high school level. So for example, let's say son or daughter took Spanish 1 and 2 in middle school. The college still wants to see a language taken at the high school level. Sure. Yes. That is correct. That is absolutely correct. And on the transcript, those courses that came over from the middle school, they are on the transcript. You can see them on there, but the credits are not calculated. But the college rep or employer, whoever, can see that they took those classes. Okay? No, you're absolutely correct. Well, they have to take at least 1 year. They have to take 1 year of a language instead of 2. Does that mean, okay? All right. Any other questions in regards to that? Okay. And once again, we got 4 years to work on this. You want to have a conversation with your counselor, because the student can be starting off in one direction as a freshman, and as they're go a totally different direction. So as you're looking at the curriculum and the requirements, definitely you want to have a conversation with the counselor about, what's the best plan for your student. Okay. Now, also for many, a lot of the middle school students never took or never had final exams or midterm exams or cumulative exams. So this can be a very, very, very stressful time. So we want to kind of give you a bit of a heads up in regards to how it works. Basically, the students will take 2 exams per day on a half-a-day schedule. Okay? So it's not so overwhelming that they're doing them all at the same time, but they'll take 2 each day on the half-a-day schedule. Most of them are cumulative, and just to kind of give you an idea, most teachers will score it from about 10% to 20% of the grade. So definitely you want to make sure that your kids are preparing for these exams, because it can sway it one way or another. As I said before, the majority of teachers probably go with about 20%. Some go with about 10%, but that's pretty much where we see. But definitely, and we're going to talk about, and also Mr. Rappaport is going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you can do to help prepare for those midterm exams. All right. Good old-fashioned standardized testing, always my favorite. And so in April of this year, your students will take the PSAT, and once again, there'll be some notice given. Those students who need accommodations, once again, we'll reach out to them and put them in their separate places and whatnot. But that's really their first high school test that we're going to provide for them. There's no cost associated with it. But definitely we take those results and we look at those results as a way to prepare and maybe even find some coaching as we move forward. Kids tend to get really tense about these tests, But one thing we want to reiterate to our freshmen is that this is your first go round. Nobody's sending this to a college. Nobody's going to see it. It's just an opportunity for us to start collecting some data and kind of seeing where your strengths and weaknesses lie. So we're hoping that, that they're not too stressed out about that as well. Also have up there the other dates as it relates, because they will test every year. Yes, sir.
So how is the PSAT handled for special needs students?
Okay. The question is, how is the PSAT handled for special needs students? Once again, those students who have accommodations, depending on what those accommodations are, they may be in a separate room, maybe in a small setting. If they receive extended time, the room that they're in would receive extended time. So it depends on that special needs students, what accommodations that they have. Some might have a scribe where somebody's filling it out for them. It just depends on the need or the accommodations. But that student will know in advance where to report and in which room to report to, and those accommodations will already be in place.
Is this something my son can discuss with his counselor now?
Absolutely, yeah. So the question was, can the son discuss this with the counselor? Absolutely, and depending on the student or whatever, if the student has a caseload teacher, could also be discussed with the caseload teacher. All right, and since we're on that topic, if a student does receive accommodations, those accommodations in regards to PSAT, they go from 9th grade all the way through 12th grade. So there's not like you got to keep applying over and over again. Those accommodations will be in place from start to finish. Also, those same accommodations, we won't get into it much tonight, but will also be in place on AP testing if the student is taking AP testing as well. So with College Board, they all kind of coordinate together. You're welcome. One great resource that we utilize is the Khan Academy. I don't know, anybody's kids already on Khan Academy? All right, I see some hands. It's a great resource for test prep as well. And also, the state has, for many years, the state testing went through ACT. Of course, they moved our cheese, and about a year ago, moved us over to SAT. However, I do want to explain that a good ACT score is just as powerful as a good SAT score. And some kids do better on the ACT. So we still recommend that students take an ACT if they have time, if it's not another addition to the plate, if it's not too stressful, because sometimes students do better on the ACT. And so a good ACT is just as good as a good SAT. All right? So we've got some websites up there. Definitely in your free time, you can definitely check those out and get a little bit more information. All right. So I've gotten many calls at this time of year about some students who are struggling, some students who may be struggling with organization, trying to keep up with things. And so many of our parents are already on Family Access. We're on it from middle school. But if you're not, we definitely want to make sure all of the parents are on Family Access. So you do that. You can get the link from our website. And for more login information, you want to talk to the counseling secretary, Mrs. Downer. She will help you, get you set up, and make sure everything is good. Also, some parents don't know that students also have their own Family Access code where they can check their grades at any point in time, and they have their own passwords and everything. So make sure that you're staying connected and you're staying linked in. Also, make sure you're checking the teacher websites and basic information in terms of what's due, when it's due. A lot of times that information is there, and we've got a link to the website there. All right. So as I stated before, this is the first semester of high school, and for many students, it's extremely demanding, the amount of homework, the amount required. So some folks are struggling. If that's the case, most teachers have some level of before school, during lunch, or after school hours by appointment. So definitely want to encourage your kids to sign up for that. We also have a study program after school in the LMC on Mondays and Wednesdays from 3 to 4. And a lot of times our administrators are there, as well as some of our other teachers. Mr. Malash is incredible with math. Mr. Gall is incredible with English. Mr. Kane is incredible with social studies. So there's a lot of support there for those students who need help. Also, we have National Honor Society tutoring, where our National Honor Society students tutor individually. And it's a really great program. Our kids are very flexible and will work with your kids. Our students will work with your kids. And there's a list that sits in the hallway on the second floor. Also, each counselors, we all have a list of the tutors as well. So you could contact us, email us, or reach out, and we can send you the name of a tutor. Or a lot of times, like today, just sit down with kids and we go through and we try to find out when the best time is for the student to meet, and then we coordinate that with the Honor Society students. All right? Okay. And to prepare for our midterm exams, we're going to have Midterm Madness Study Skills Workshop on January 8th. All right? So definitely want you to sign up for that. We're going to send out a link for registration. I definitely feel that that's going to be a great help to you, or great help to your students to help prepare for the exams. All right. Also on Friday, it will be the end of the semester, and sometimes parents will ask, or students will ask, do these grades from the first term follow me? Do they follow me? And so I want you to understand that the grades from this first term will not go on the transcript, okay? So it's something that you can see in Family Access and whatnot, but these grades are not a part of the transcript. They'll be calculated from the first term, the second term, the exam grade, then that will create the cumulative grade that goes onto the transcript. I'm gonna say that one more time. So you got the grade from the first term, the second term, the actual midterm exam, and then that will create the cumulative grade that will go on the transcript. Okay? All right. So for the most part, I think I've covered everything that I plan to cover on tonight. Are there any general questions about the kind of nuts and bolts? You have questions about tutoring, anything like that? Definitely I'll take those questions now. Yes. Yes. Yes, yep, that's for all students. Yep, for all students. Yep. Any other questions? Oh, I see you. Okay. Sure. All right, so the question about AP and honors level coursework. Basically, when we talk about AP courses, it stands for advanced placement. And with that, when students take an advanced placement class, in most cases there's an advanced placement test at the end where a student can score between a 1 and a 5. Most colleges will take between a 3 and a 5, depending on the school, and can utilize that class for college credit. Okay, so there's definitely certain advantages to taking AP coursework. Some time ago, we had some students who took a number of AP classes, and they started their college experience as a sophomore. Some even started college experience as a junior based on the number of dual enrollment as well as AP classes. So there's a number of benefits to that. Also, when we talk about many of our honors and our honors and AP courses, some of them are grade weighted. So basically, Berkley is on a 4.0 scale, but when a student takes different, certain honors and AP courses, it's worth 5 points. So when our students graduate, sometimes you may hear that Sheila graduated with a 4.4 and Bob graduated with a 4.3. In most cases, those students have picked up honors and AP courses. Now, the question of how do colleges view them? It really depends on the school. Certain colleges want to see more AP and honors level coursework and want to see that students challenge themselves, where other colleges are not as big on kids having those courses. But once again, it's an individual thing. It depends on where the student is going, the direction that they're going, and then so we need to kind of see where what they need to have in order to go to a U of M, or if they want to go to Georgetown, or if they want to go to Spelman or Howard. It really depends on the direction that they're going in terms of what those AP and honors courses will do for them. So, okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Yes. Okay. All right. So the question is, what is dual enrollment? Dual enrollment is kind of, the definition is within the word, in that the student is enrolled here as well as at a college or in another I should say post-secondary experience at the same time. And so basically students can take classes here, but they may also take them while they're here at the college level. Okay, and basically when we talk about dual enrollment courses, those courses are courses in most cases that we don't offer here, or a student has excelled beyond the curriculum. So for example, maybe a student has gone beyond Calc BC, and so we're looking for a college level calculus class for that student. Or a student is looking for sign language and we don't offer it. So in those cases, we're able to dual enroll. With Berkley High School, mainly we work our dual enrollment program with OCC. And one of the beautiful things about that is that we're able to take the money that comes in per pupil, we take that money and it's put towards the dual enrollment expenses. So many of our students who are taking dual enrollment at OCC are taking that class for free or at a very low cost because it's being covered by the state. If a student takes a dual enrollment class, let's say at U of D Mercy, and maybe they're at $2,500 per credit hour, once again, that class is not going to be free, but a certain percentage is going to be covered. So once again, students can dual enroll in certain courses. For the most part, our students tend to dual enroll in junior year, though. You know, the majority of our students, I would say, start that process around junior year after they've come through their core requirements. Okay, all right. Any other? Oh. Yes. Okay. And the question was, do those courses count towards their credits? Absolutely. They do count toward their credits. With that being said, there's also students who want to take college courses in the summer. So if a student is taking a college course in the summer, at that point in time, you're not dual enrolled. You know what I mean? So at that point, you become what's called a guest student. And if you're a guest student and you want to get that credit onto the transcript, we need to go through the approval of your assistant principal or the principal to make sure that they're okay with doing that. Okay? All right. Well, you know what? I definitely want to save some time for Mrs. Rappaport from the Tutoring Center. And so I'm going to get ready to turn it over to her. And then at the end, if you have questions, I will be down here. Mrs. Ty will be down here. We'll all be here to take your questions. So thank you so much for your attention. And I'm going to hand it over to Mrs. Rappaport. Thank you.
Oh, you need this. Oh boy. How am I gonna do it? All right. Let's see if I can manage this. Hi, everybody. How are you this evening? My name is Sarah Rappaport. You can call me Sarah, and I am the owner and center director of the Tutoring Center in Birmingham. I was a teacher, and I taught for 6 years. And I think that, I've been doing the Tutoring Center for 4 years now, and I think it's given me a pretty unique perspective because we work with students kindergarten all the way up through 12th grade. It's allowed me to really see how a student's performance in elementary school affects their performance in middle school and their performance in high school and getting ready for college. So my goal for today is to, let's see if I need one more hand up here. My goal for today is to try to inspire you, encourage you, and also give you some tips to make it through the next 4 years successfully. Oh, we already got there. All right, so I want you to take a minute to think about your child and reflect back for a moment. Congratulations, you've made it through the past 8 years of elementary school and middle school. You guys survived middle school. I'm sure that wasn't so easy for you, but you're about halfway there, and you've got 8 more years to go. You've got 4 years of high school and 4 more years of college, and hopefully you'll get them off your payroll at that point, right? So I want you to think for a moment I've noticed a lot of high school parents, they'll come to me and think like, oh, my child really should be responsible enough to manage their time and to keep track of their supplies, and they should really be, right? I know, on top of all of their resources and own their learning. But I've got a question for you. Raise your hand if you are accountable to a boss or some sort of a manager. Right. So if all of us as adults are accountable to a manager, then why should we think that as high school students that our high schoolers don't need a manager either? So as much as we would like to be hands-off with the process, they're not ready for that yet, and adults need that, and so we need to keep that in mind, as frustrating as it might be at times, that our students need that too. So I want you to think about, paint a picture, what do successful students do? And kind of think about, as we're going through this checklist, what is your student doing well, or what are maybe some areas that they need to work on? So strong students, it's not magic. They work hard. Every student that's successful puts in the time and effort and energy, and so good students have a strong work ethic. They've got a vision for their future. So Mr. Beebe talked a little bit about different colleges and what are the requirements to get into those colleges and GPAs. Strong students have a vision of that, of where they're going. Even as a freshman, they don't need to have all the answers, but they need to start dreaming and thinking about those things. They're organized, they know how to study, they do it frequently, and they know how to manage their stress. So I'm sure every single one of you would agree with me that life is stressful, no matter whether you're 2 years old having a temper tantrum about a toy you didn't get to buy, or you're 92 years old because it's hard to walk, or whatever it might be. Life is stressful. And so it's important that we teach our students how to manage stress, because it's just part of life, right? So your kids are now in high school, and so what does that mean for them? They've got increased academic rigor. The teachers are responsible for getting a tremendous amount of information to your students to get them ready for college. So they've got all these academic things that they need to cover. It's much more strenuous than middle school. The teachers can't be as lenient with extending deadlines and time frames and things like that. So they've got the pressure of that. There's a lot of things competing for their time, right? There's more to do socially. There's lots of clubs to get excited about. They're going through changes, and there's the interest of maybe boys or girls that they're interested in dating or something like that. So in order to thrive with these competing stressors and this competing academic rigor, we really need to make sure that our students know how to manage their time, they know how to prioritize, they know how to plan for long-term projects, and they know how, again, to stay organized. All right, so these life skills that I just mentioned, I've listed in more detail here, and cognitive and educational psychologists have given it a fancy name. They've called these executive functioning skills. So these are life skills, though, right? We all use these skills on a day-to-day basis. Some of us are strong in certain areas and weak in other areas, and that's pretty normal. High school's an awesome opportunity to start strengthening these skills, because they're needed in a way in high school that they weren't needed in elementary school and middle school. So as your child's high school manager, because that's what I want you to think of yourselves as, maybe it'll help disconnect emotionally as well. I'm going to go through, I know I only have 30 minutes, so I'm going to try to take a high-level approach to some of these skills and just give you a little background of what it is and some tips to help strengthen those. All right, so let's dig in. So response inhibition, this pretty much is just impulse control. So if you've got a child who says, okay, I'm going to be doing my homework, and they just consistently give into this temptation to play video games or text on their phone, right? You understand the temptation, but if they can't control themselves, well, they're not going to execute on it. So this is a habit of the mind that you're going to have to work over and over again to develop. But what you can do to help your child strengthen that is just to model self-control. So maybe you're verbalizing, oh, I can't wait for us to watch this movie together as a family this Sunday, but at first we're going to clean up the Halloween decorations, and then we'll be able to enjoy this time together. So you're modeling this impulse control. We all have things we'd rather be doing, but we all have responsibilities we have to take care of first. Next, we have working memory. So this is an important skill. This is the skill that you're able to keep multiple directions in your head. This is an important skill that comes into play with working with multi-step directions. In math, you see this a lot because they're multi-step problems. Okay, so the solution, if your child has poor working memory, is to establish routines. Routines and habits are your friend, and the more you can practice routines and get certain routines into place, they're going to become habits, and your child will start doing them without thinking. So if your child consistently forgets assignments, make sure they get in the habit that their bag is packed the night before, and if they forget their backpack, stick it in front of the door so it's impossible for them to miss it. So routines are your friends when it comes to working memory. Emotional control, I think that this one is so important to think about and to talk about and to tap into your resources. Your kids are going to be driving soon. And so can you imagine if they have poor emotional control, if they encounter a situation on the road and behind the wheel with some road rage, or having a temper can really harm relationships with family members and friends. And so it's really important to help teach your child strong communication skills. Make yourself available and open to talking with them. Become an active listener. Try to guide your child through the learning process instead of necessarily reacting to something that may have happened that didn't go so well. Task initiation. So this is just getting started, right? Getting started is the hardest part. We can probably all relate to that. So some tips for that is to just teach your child how to break tasks down into smaller chunks and set a reward for yourself. I know that some people intrinsically are like, well, why do we need to give a carrot, right? But as adults, we all have a reward for something that we do, right? We go to work, we get paid for it. So what kind of a reward could you establish in place that your child can get excited about? So when they have to take something to the finish line that's not fun for them, that they have a reward and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Next, we have sustained attention, and I think this is pretty self-explanatory. It's the ability to stay focused on something for a prolonged period of time. This is really hard, especially in this day and age, right? We're constantly stimulated with these inputs. So a tip that I would highly, highly recommend is to try to convince your child to turn off their notifications. And if you can buy into that, maybe you'll get some buy-in from your child as well. When I was teaching, I had a pretty structured day. I showed up at school at the same time and I ran through my classes and they were pretty structured, and I had my certain times of the day that I would check my email and I wouldn't have access to it at other times of the day. And when I became self-employed, this became a huge stressor for me. This constant stimulus of emails and notifications, it really caused a lot of anxiety. And somebody gave me the advice of like, well, just turn off the notification. Are you gonna forget to check your email? No. Are you gonna forget that Facebook or your social media is not there? No. And so I think this one is incredibly important. When I talk to students about this and I see them, they'll bring their phone into tutoring and I see them, you hear it buzz and they're ignoring it. But I'm like, yeah, you're not going to forget to check Snapchat, right? And every time that notification goes off, it's kind of like somebody standing over your shoulder and just tapping on you. And as much as you're physically ignoring it, your part of your brain is over there. So you're not able to really give that attention. So try to, not completely, right. So try to get your child to buy into that one. I know it won't be easy, but I think it's an important life skill again. Planning and prioritizing. So this one's pretty tough. This is your ability to take a goal and break it down into steps and the things that you need to do to get to that goal. So this is students who, they've got a paper due on Friday and they're like, oh, it won't take that long. I've got plenty of time to do it. Or, these are the students waiting to the last minute to turn in a science fair project, which is an enormous project, right? So some tips for that are to make sure that your child's keeping all of their assignments in one place. So that way they can see all that they have in front of them and they can kind of break down, okay, I actually have a lot that I need to get done. Teaching your child to think about deadlines. Well, what's coming due first and how long are these different assignments going to take me? And again, it's the repetition, the practice of thinking this way that's going to help set your child up for success. Another thing you might want to do is start with your easiest assignments first. It kind of helps build confidence. And once you get that momentum and that steam going, a lot of times it's easier for students to keep it going. I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper dive when it comes to organization, because I think that being organized is one of the single most important skills necessary for a student to be successful. How many of you you're 2 months into the school year, have you seen your child, their papers are coming out of their backpacks or their binders? I'm seeing some heads nodding and things like that, right? Maybe we can relate to that ourselves as adults, of just the hustle and bustle of the day-to-day life that, you know, we're busy and we're in a hurry. So it's important that you help your child to develop a system, whether it's an electronic system, it's a physical system. Think about all of the different places that you receive information. So in class, at home, out in the world. It needs to be easy. The system has to be easy to use. If it's not easy, forget it. They're not going to use it, so make sure it's easy. Less is more. And try to keep it consistent. Okay. So I think it talked about the physical spaces already to think about when it comes time to students doing homework or completing projects or assignments, thinking about the physical spaces that they're doing those assignments in. Take away every excuse possible. Oh, I didn't have a paper, I didn't have a ruler, I didn't have a writing utensil. Take away those excuses. Make sure that whatever space that they're studying in is consistent and that it's stocked with supplies. Some things that you want to consider, and I would actually take these questions down and ask your child these questions. And it would be interesting if they even have an answer to these questions, like, well, where do you put your homework that needs to be completed? And then what do you do with it to make sure it gets turned in? If they have an answer to it quickly, that's awesome. If they maybe don't have an answer to it quickly, or if you ask this question to them on 2 separate occasions, they'd give you 2 separate answers, those are indicators that that's something you need to work on with your child. Nobody likes losing things, so in a calm moment, having this conversation with them, I think that they would be pretty open and receptive to getting these systems in place. Let's see. Creating a reference system. I know in Berkley, nobody uses their lockers for some reason. It's like what they do here. So I've worked with a lot of students from Berkley, and halfway through the school year, their backpacks are literally exploding. Like the seams of the backpack are so strained. And so a really easy solution for this is to create a reference system. And I brought a couple examples here. If you guys want to take a look at it after the presentation is over, you're welcome to do so. But essentially, setting up a system is a really easy solution for your child. When they finish a chapter test, they take that chapter and they just chuck it in their filing system at home, and they don't have to think about it until midterms again, right? And then when midterms come, everything is in one place, and they can get to work studying. They don't have to go back and search through things. So this is going to make their lives easier from the long-term perspective for midterms, and on a short-term perspective, it's going to make their lives easier because they're not going to have so much stuff seeping out of their backpacks. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend this. I wish I would have known about that in high school myself. And then organization, it takes work, right? It takes work to maintain. So talk to your child about scheduling a time weekly to review their system and hit reset on it. I try my best to do this myself every single week. I block out time in my calendar and I literally schedule it. And the weeks that I actually have a weekly review to hit reset are much more productive and happier weeks for me than the weeks that I don't. So again, I think that's a good best practice to maintain your systems and keep things consistent. Okay. Time management. So this is tough for some students. It's the capacity to understand how much time you have available, how much time something's going to take for you to complete it, to stop in time, to to get to your next appointment on time or whatever it might be. So something that you can do with your child is to just ask them, well, how long do you think it'll take to empty out the dishwasher? And they might tell you, oh, it takes 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Set a timer and give them some like non-emotional, actual data that, hey, that took you less than 5 minutes to do. You spent more time arguing with me about emptying the dishwasher than it took to actually complete it. And go through this exercise with your students when it comes time to doing homework. How long do you think it'll take you to complete this one page of math problems? And set a timer. People who have a poor relationship with time, helping them to just understand and have those anecdotal notes are gonna really make your life easier. That'll help develop that. Something else you can do, this is an awesome chart that I use with students who struggle with time management, is just taking a calendar and blocking out all of your commitments that you have after school and how long you think those are going to take. And then counting up how much time do you have left to study? And then measuring, well, how much time are you actually spending studying? So this is an awesome, awesome tool to help really develop that sense of time. I hear a lot like, oh, we're so busy, I don't have time to do that, it's just too much. And then when you actually put it on paper, it's like, wow, no, I actually do have plenty of time. I have time to relax. I have time to hang out with my friends. I've got time for all the things. And if you've got a child who's maybe really scheduled, they're active in sports or they've got a lot going on, it's going to be an even more important skill for them to maintain, to keep stress levels down and make sure that they're still performing at a high level. Flexibility. So this is your ability to roll with the punches. Okay, I'm going to speed it up here. To transition from one situation to another. So if your child is maybe really scared to go talk to their teacher, a lot of times there's a lack of flexibility because a child just they can't think of alternative solutions. So if they're really resistant to doing something or they shut down, maybe talk through with them some alternative options, and it'll help increase their flexibility. This metacognition means thinking about your thinking. This is immensely important because this is what you need to do to really learn. You need to reflect back on, okay, I did well on this test. What did I do well that made me successful? I did poorly on this test. What didn't I do that made me perform poorly? So this engagement of reflecting back is really, really important. I can't stress that enough. So some things that you can do are log into Skyward every single week and check grades. And again, celebrate progress, celebrate success, and also reflect back on what can you try differently this week. Okay. Setting long-term goals and to follow through with goals. Again, log into Skyward or use another tool to keep track of progress that you're making. Try to set realistic goals. If your child is getting C's and D's right now, think about why. Do they have missing assignments? Maybe a goal for them for next week would be that they have no missing assignments, and you've got to take baby steps to getting to those long-term goals. But using a tool with like a chart, Skyward, it's really, really helpful. Stress tolerance, so the ability to thrive in stressful situations and cope with uncertainty. And this is, again, part of life. And so what we need to do as adults in our child's lives is to teach them skills to deal with that stress. So you can model mindfulness. What do you do when you're stressed out? How do you deal with that? Are you dealing with it in a healthy way? Do you take a deep breath? Are you exercising or going for a walk? Are you journaling? There's lots of ways to deal with stress. If you're struggling with something like this, your child is struggling with something like this, get a professional involved, get a therapist involved. My parents put me in therapy when I was in high school, and it was probably the best thing that they had ever done for me. One of my good friends in high school was anorexic, and I made it my problem, and it was affecting everything in my life because it was a big stressor for me. And giving me that support, that assistance, someone to talk to was immensely helpful. So don't be afraid to get a counselor involved if this seems to be a challenge for your child. Another thing that you guys should know about stress is that when stress is present, a skill, one of these executive skills of being organized, for example, when stress is present, if they were really organized and they were calm and not stressed out, but now all this stress is present, that organization might have the tendency to drop. So when stress is present, the thinking brain is not as present, it's not as available. And so I think this is just, as a society, so important for us to really embrace learning how to manage this, if I haven't stressed it enough. I read a study recently that said the average number of inputs our grandparents received, I'm saying this backwards, the average number of inputs, so emails, phone calls, right, stimulus that we receive in one day nowadays is equivalent to the number of inputs that our grandparents received in 1 month. So we're just, as a society, we're under a lot more stress. So again, it's important we have these executive skills in place, that they're strong, and we know how to deal with this. You gotta celebrate progress. Progress is progress, right? They're not gonna get there overnight. You guys have time on your sides. You're here as freshman parents. So really take the time to think about what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are the things that we need to work on, and just chip away at it one thing at a time and celebrate that progress. Because if we're always focused on not good enough, it's gonna cause stress and it's gonna stress you out, it's gonna stress your child out. So really try to focus on that progress that you're making and know that there is no perfect and your child will mess up or you'll lose your patience or whatever it might be, and that's okay. Just get back at it and keep working towards progress. Here's some resources for you if you wanna. There's tons of resources out there for helping develop these skills within your child. There's a great book, Smart But Scattered for Teens, and it works kind of as a manual. So you can identify specific areas that your child needs to work on, and there's additional things in there. There's tons of podcasts out there and information. Stress management, there's meditation apps, there's yoga or whatever. Tap into your guidance counselors and professionals out there. Everybody get those pictures done? And then finally, if you feel that your child has strong executive functioning skills, they're organized, they know how to manage their time and things like that, and they need additional academic support, they're still not performing at school, that's what we do at the Tutoring Center, is that we give that extra support. Sometimes kids really struggle with performing because they've got skill gaps. Maybe they're struggling in geometry because they've forgotten order of operations is something that they learned in middle school. So just different things like that. So our goal is to always work together as a team and to empower kids to reach their potential. Here's my contact information. Feel free to email me, call me, check us out on Facebook or whatever, but that's what I've got for you today. Hopefully it was helpful.
All right, thank you, Sarah. So at this point, we're going to close out our program for this evening. But once again, thank you all so much for coming out on tonight. We will be down here in this front aisle. If you have questions, feel free to come down. The Counseling Center, I know we're talking a lot about academics and those kind of things, but we also deal with the social emotional issues as well. Your kids getting to know folks, there's situations going on in class, so we're kind of a one-stop shop. But once again, thank you all so much for coming tonight, and have a great night.